Hello everyone and welcome to another video. It's a blisteringly hot day in June. The Susans are flowering, the coreopsises are flowering, and today I'm going to talk about the top 5 best times to go birding at any time of the year, and also at any place. These rules don't always hold true, and I've given some more or less guidelines for when they hold true or not, and like how influential they are on the certain groups of birds, but you'll see. So let's dive right in. 5. After rain. So this works really well during the spring and fall migration seasons. It can really bring the migrants down out of the treetops and make them easier to see, less skittish. The type of rain you're looking for is periodic showers with brief intervals of no rain in between. So basically you want when the rain droplets are big enough to force the birds to go hide, but there's some brief times when they can go out and feed, and there is no wind, like hurricane or tornado force wind, that scares them all away and keeps them from coming out even when the rain stops. So you need this type of rain that's just like a drizzle without almost any wind. This can also help in the summer to freshen things up and get the summer breeders down closer to ground level, but this is most crucial during the spring seasons. I've gotten photographs of hooded warblers and outer warblers because of this, and also a few excellent photos of summer tanagers and other birds and flowering trees too. So 4, go out in the morning, 5 to 11 depending on the season. In the morning is generally when you have the most bird activity. The birds and waterfowl and shorebirds on the lakes, you haven't yet been scared by the warmth of the day. The warblers are out and singing. This holds true to most during spring migration, when you can really just go outside and hear all the birds that are out and about. But you may hear them though, but you may not see them. I feel like the evening hours, which we're going to talk about next, are better for photographing birds than the morning hours. The morning hours are more for hearing the birds and knowing what's out there, but the morning hours are still a good time to go out birding. If you do bird photography, I feel like going out to a forest early in the morning is kind of useless, like when it's only a few hours of sunrise, because for most of us, our cameras do not have high enough ISOs or high enough or large enough apertures to be able to make up for the fact that there's so little light in the forest. So if I were to go birding in the morning, the place I probably would go is a marsh or a sewer treatment plant. That's just where you're going to see the most interesting birds, and you're going to have the most bird activity that's easy to find early. I'm not saying there's not a lot of bird activity in the morning in a forest. I'm just saying it's kind of harder to photograph and harder to see. So that's what the evening hours are for though. In the summer, the morning is even more essential because it's so hot during the day. The birds just get out earlier, eat earlier, and then immediately hide for the remainder of the day. So if you want to get some bird activity, most of the time you have to go in the morning, sometimes even as early as before 8, because after that the bird activity drops off sharply and you have very little chance of redemption, even in the evening hours. 3, evening. This can be a redemption for missing the early morning hours. It may or may not work on summer days depending on how hot it is, but there's always a little more bird activity than during the rest of the day near dark. It's also fun to go photographing during this time because the birds just tend to be easier to find, particularly during the fall. You also have beautiful golden light during this time, though you also have it in the morning. But I believe that you have golden light for longer in the evening. You just have a longer time to take advantage of that golden light. 2, after hurricanes or severe storms. So this can have a similar effect on regular birds as after rain does, because it just forces the birds to be very desperate about when they're eating because their weather is just so bad. But the cooler thing that fragments of a hurricane or severe storms can do is bring in rare birds from elsewhere. Hurricanes in particular can bring in all sorts of exotic coastal birds into as far as places like the Mississippi Valley. And severe storms can bring birds like the vermilion flycatcher all the way to Kentucky. So one iconic case of what a hurricane can do is after hurricane, I'll just put that on the screen. I think it happened 3 years ago. After the fragments of that hurricane went over the southeastern US, there was a huge fall of flamingos. Yes, flamingos all over the southeastern US. And not just southeastern US, also the north. There were some in flamingos in Wisconsin. Also there was one in Tennessee. I think there was one in Kentucky. And many others scattered across the state. And it was all because of this hurricane, the fragments of this hurricane making landfall in Florida that brought all of these flamingos into the United States. And something like that has never happened before and has never happened since. So hurricanes can provide awesome rare bird opportunities, and so can severe storms, but to a lesser extent. But that doesn't mean that every hurricane is going to be bringing flamingos, but if you get lucky, maybe one will. I hope so. I still don't have a flamingo on my list. And this is so obvious, it's not even funny. During peak migration. Obviously, the birding is going to be better during peak migration. But when exactly is peak migration going to be? Well, if you go to this website, a free website called Birdcast, I've talked about it before, it will give you the exact dates, the exact week, in fact, when peak migration will be going for your area in both the spring and fall migration seasons. And also they have a radar where they use weather radar to see how many birds are passing over certain areas of the United States every day during the spring and fall migration season. So you can literally look or sign up for a migration alert, and you'll know when there's a huge amount of birds passing over your area, like which night exactly. So you know the next day to go outside and do some birding. It's the next day, and I feel like I didn't talk enough about fall and winter. So in the fall, the morning isn't as essential because the birds just aren't singing as much anymore. And in the winter, there are some exceptions though. In general, you will have more bird activity in the morning and more bird activity in the evening, just like you would expect. But on very cold days, you probably will have a lot of bird activity all day, just a little bit more in the morning and a little bit more in the evening hours. So I think that's it. And if you want to know what exactly you can expect in most of the southeastern United States throughout the whole year, season by season, I have a whole playlist dedicated to that. Of course, it's a little bit more specific to where I live, the southeastern US, and my own experiences, but I feel like it will be accurate for most of the eastern US, or at least southeastern US. Not for the western US, unfortunately. It's just that I have a bias towards the southeastern US because I live here. So be sure to check out that playlist in the description below, and thanks for watching. Subscribe, share, and like.